Hi everyone, Di Parker here, the Good Grief Coach from Life After Loss. I'm very honoured today that a friend of mine has asked if she could come on a podcast because she wants to share a story with you. Now, I just want to give a warning because this is about abuse, domestic abuse. So if any of you are going to be touched or triggered by this, I am going to put some places for you to contact at the end of this podcast. Ultimately, from this story, Kerry is hoping that you will find the courage and confidence to find your own path out of whatever situation you find yourself in. Or if you know of anybody in this situation, that you can possibly forward this podcast to them so that they can experience it for themselves. Kerry, thank you so much for coming on today and agreeing to do this and wanting to do it. That's more important.
It
And
is.
to make the changes that you have made.
Got married with my first marriage when I was 23 and had my son and daughter. Although we were married, he was never ever abusive. He just wasn't there in the marriage. He just wasn't there in life, mentally, emotionally, or verbally available to. And the eldest and my eldest daughter, the 6 and 3-year-old, the bottom of the bed, waking me up, and I lifted my head up and they go, "Oh, I thought you were so and so." And I looked at them and I went, "Why?" I says, "This is mummy's bed, mummy and daddy's bed. So and so has her own bed." That was really I suppose, the crunch time.
Yeah.
For me to start going, right, what is going on?
Yeah.
So, and weirdly, it didn't affect me like it should have.
Well, I suppose if it was empty,
Yeah,
you'd already been,
yeah,
there was a loss already there in that.
yeah, yeah.
The relationship wasn't what you had hoped it would be.
No. What I realized, he was quite tearful.
You have a right to live your life as well,
Exactly.
you know.
And when I came back from dad's, we sat down and we talked, and I said to him, I says, "Look, I love you, but I love you like a brother.
Yeah.
I don't want our marriage breakup to affect a bad relationship between you and I, because we are parents to our children.
Yeah.
And I want it to be friendly." But the problem of the abuse started in that the last month of that 3-month period. Because if I was going to have friends round, we had a big farmhouse. It had 3 reception rooms, but he always invaded my space. And what was the final, he actually came, he was in bed, he came down the stairs in his dressing gown with no pajamas and sat with me and my friends with his legs bare. He was naked under the
Dressing
and
gown.
it wasn't a long dressing gown.
Right.
And I remembered going, and I thought, I'm not going to cause a scene. So it's time for another coffee. So I said to him, "Do you want to come out and help me bring them in?" Because that was my way of saying, right, you can go. There's 2 other reception rooms, living rooms. I said, or you can go back upstairs. I says, "But how dare you come in dressed like that in front of me and my friends?" I says, "It's disrespectful to my friends. Never mind me." He was a passive aggressive. He was off the next day, so we both were. So I made him a cup of tea in the morning and I sat him down and I says, "Look, you need to properly start looking." I says, "Because after last night, this can't go on." He started the abuse against me. It was financial, it was mental, it was emotional. We shared a car. He took that away from me. Me and the children, we were living in the middle of nowhere. The nearest bus stop was 3 miles away.
Yeah.
Literally, it was country roads. And that meant that I had to walk those 3 miles with the children.
What ages would they have been then?
Oh, all would have been 3 then, 4 and 7.
Did they go and stay with their dad?
In the beginning, yes. And then he got together with this woman. But his father introduced them on their sleepovers, their nights, as the babysitter, not as anything else.
He's used to doing that, isn't he?
So when it came out that he was moving in with her and her 7 children, because that's when the abuse really towards my children started.
And what kind of things was
It was
that?
emotional and mental abuse.
Right.
From her.
From her, right.
She was jealous.
Okay.
They used to date when they were 16.
Yeah.
And years down the line, she actually stopped me and said to me, he should have married me, not you.
Okay. So she was unpleasant to your children when they were there.
Oh,
how did you find out about that? They come home and tell
my
you?
children told me. Their favorite toys, teddies that they could not sleep without, that they had since they were born, that their godparents had bought them. Winnie the Pooh was for my son's best friend for 6 years. He went everywhere with him. Then when the youngest was born, he gave Winnie to her.
Right.
Again, never went anywhere without Winnie. Anywhere at all. My eldest daughter, her godfather got her a beautiful teddy for her christening when she was 4 months old. And that went everywhere with her. Nightmare to keep clean because he was white.
Yeah.
She put them in the bin in front of her outside, the big bin for the bin men. The morning they were coming home and they were so distraught. Obviously.
Yes.
I was furious because that's my children's comfort for night.
Yeah. Yes, I do. Because the children lack security when a family home has diversified like this, which is a lot is happening now, which is why I'm passionate about talking about
And
grief in this way.
Yeah.
But having to, go through that.
But
and the loss of their special items.
Because her children were telling my children, he's not your daddy anymore, he's ours. So all my children are telling me this and them distraught. And my eldest daughter was born a pure daddy's girl. Affected her.
Yeah.
That 2 things
it's not
carried
so
on
much a little
throughout.
thing as
it was
there
major.
was a loss of trust there, and that is one of the fundamental things that we then build our rest of our lives on. And the one person that's supposed to look out for you is your mum and your dad. And when they're not there for you, or this sort of thing happens, then especially, what age would she have been then?
5.5, coming 6.
So it would have had a big impact on her.
And then the youngest was 4, because there's a year difference between the 2 girls. Instead of their father protecting them from that.
Yes, exactly. My daddy's not going to be there for me.
And I mean, that's just 2 things. Every week there was something.
Yeah.
And then it's the sleepover stopped. Then
did you put a stop to it?
No.
No,
because was it my job, my place, to deny my children their father? I didn't think it was. Did I think it was right? I had spoken to him multiple times and we would chat.
Yeah.
But she didn't like that. She was jealous of that. So she knew that he always wanted back with me.
Right.
So I was always apparently a threat.
Right.
When actually, little does she know,
Yeah.
there's no chance I'm a threat to you.
Yeah. So how long did that go on before whatever it is you're wanting to share today happened?
Whilst this was all happening, he was getting at me with the mental, emotional, and passive aggressive abuse.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis. And I wanted no communication with him because it didn't matter. He would agree to something, and the minute he would turn away and walk away, it would be like, oh, I don't think so. I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
Regardless of what the kids were going through.
Can you give more of an example of that?
Well, for example, it started with the teddies.
Yeah.
Of course, I had to console the kids. I had to try and explain to children that age without kicking off. And I never kicked off because I'm not one who kicks off. I'm someone who sit down, let's discuss this. You know, so it was a lot of things that was going on in her household that I would say to him, the children were going through this. And I would say to him, they've even told me you're standing there while they're getting this, and you're doing nothing. I said, that's not acceptable. You're their father. You need to start getting a backbone.
Yeah.
For their sake, and not allow her to treat my children like that. So it just got to the point where I knew my children needed one stable, safe,
yes,
loving home. And I gave that to them. I had boyfriends, but I would never, ever, I kept that separate. My children never, ever met. My solicitor...
Were they married at this point?
Yes. Yeah, all that time. Because the minute our divorce came through, they went to Vegas and got married.
Right.
My solicitor was so fed up. This is another form of the abuse. Yeah. This is the mental and emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Also, he was not giving a penny of maintenance for all those years. Not one penny, even though the CSA said he had to. He was in a good job. CSA are useless. I was going into Iceland one day and she was coming out.
That's a supermarket, not the country.
Oh, yes, sorry. Sorry. Yes, the supermarket.
And there are many other supermarkets,
but this more time available.
This time it's Iceland.
Oh, Iceland's too cold for me anyway. She stopped me as she was coming out. She stopped me and she was all nicey, all chatty. And I let her carry on. This is the first time I had actually saw her. I had not seen her for 10 years. So she was all nicey, blah, blah, as if we were friends. And I stopped her. I said, let me stop you there. Firstly, I so wished we could have been friends. I said, that's never going to happen because of the way you've treated my children. I says, so let's not go there. Let's not pretend. And I says, but will you do me a favour? I says, I'm waiting 13 years for one signature to finalise our divorce in the financial section. One signature. I says, my solicitors now have barristers on the case. For the last 6 months, he has refused to turn up to court 3 times in those 6 months and ask him to sign them. Well, within 2 weeks, it was all done.
Well, gosh.
I thought, well, if I had known that, I'd have knocked on her door years ago.
So that one finished.
Yeah.
And then you'd been on your own for 13 years at this point.
Yes.
And then you thought, right, okay, clean slate, I'm going to step out into the world again.
My children were 14, 15 and 18, coming 19. And I knew they would be going off to uni.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to be left with an empty nest.
Yes.
I had devoted my whole life to my children.
Yeah.
I had denied myself a relationship. I had no support. I had no one that I could cuddle up with on the sofa. When your children have to ask your best mate's partner when they're like 7 and 8, not realizing that they were one of their godmother's partner, he says, Kerry, you're never going to believe. He said, what your two girls have just asked me. They came together to ask him, would he be their daddy?
Oh, bless.
That broke my heart.
Oh.
That broke my heart. And
They were missing their male influence.
yeah. And I thought, I can't, because their father was being so vindictive and toxic.
Yeah.
I thought, it's not fair for me to bring someone in.
Yes, yeah. There's not the vetting process and how far into a relationship are you before you realise these things.
And that was the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Can I put my children through another mistake of mine at that vulnerable age, going through that vulnerable time with their dad? I couldn't. So I just wanted to protect them.
Yeah, yeah.
Myself and my children had a very, very close relationship. Very close. We were very tight knit. So now we'd moved from the farmhouse then.
So how long were you there before you decided to create life for yourself then?
I was there about a year. So that is how I ended up on a dating site.
Right.
And this is where I met my second husband. He came with a load of lies and baggage. Well, lies. But he was the greatest boyfriend. He would spoil me, right? He was perfect. Kids adored him.
So what kind of things was he spoiling you with when you...
Oh, gifts. You know, he'd buy me surprise presents.
Yeah.
Take me out all the... You know, he just... I suppose you'd call it now love bombing.
Yeah, love bombing. Yeah.
Right? And this is 8 months, nearly a year into us dating.
Yes.
So anyway, cut a long story short.
So this is the point where you found out he was telling you he was doing one thing.
Yes.
And you turned out he did something else.
Oh, yes. Great thing with online dating is they can fabricate stories. And instead of being a quantity surveyor, like he said he was actually a painter and decorator. But when I found that out, I didn't care. He was talking about moving, because he's from the Isle of Man.
Okay, right. Which
So,
is where we are, by the way.
We live in the Isle of Man. Because the work was really good here at that point. We'd all move. Leading up to that penultimate first beating, violence, domestic violence, there would have been sarcastic comments being made, the odd nasty little comment.
Yeah.
So he was literally building up. And because I ignored that and just like, I would give him a look, as much as say, did you just say that? But I wouldn't have said anything, because I like to keep the peace.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a reactive, argumentative person.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather walk away from an argument than go full throttle into one.
Yeah.
And then come back and address the issue. Yeah. That's me. You know, not in the heat of the moment. Let things calm down. Right, let's sit down and right. And the first violence started after a night out. And I was actually already undressed and in bed. And I was sitting up in bed, taking off my makeup. And he came into the bedroom and he was ballistic, shouting, roaring. And I said, what on earth? I says, calm down. He pulled open my wardrobe The top I was wearing that night, he ripped up. He threw my clothes across the room in the wardrobe. My jewelry box, some of my necklaces, he ripped apart. One of them was my late mother's pearl necklace. I was distraught at that. I'm sitting there in bed going, what am I witnessing here? How now when I saw my mum's pearls going everywhere, I got out of bed and I said to him, you need to calm down. I says, look what you are doing. Look what you've ripped up. That's when he hit me.
Right.
For the first time. That was the start. When I say when he hit me, he didn't stop. I woke up the next day and my face was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Black eyes, busted lips, you name it. I thought, I can't go into work tomorrow looking like this. What am I going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't get my head around this man whom I'd never seen before.
Yeah, this side of him.
Never. And you're talking 18 months into the relationship.
Yeah. Out the blue.
Out of the blue.
To cut you off guard.
Yeah. So he came in from work later that day and he just broke down in tears. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. Because he saw the state of me.
Right. We'd actually picked a space that the children went around to see it as well.
Yeah. Only my son was there.
Okay.
Okay. And the next time it happened, intervened and pulled my ex-husband off me and shouted at him saying, no man lifts a hand to a woman, never mind my mother. That ended that assault. Nothing for about 6 months.
Okay. What made
I would have had the verbal and
right? Well,
mental.
What made you stay and put up with this?
I was trapped. I could not afford on my wage. I could not afford rent on my own. What I should have done in hindsight.
Yeah, we're carrying on because obviously if somebody's listening to this now and they can
what I should have done in hindsight was gone back to Derry.
Yeah.
I had my home there.
Yeah. So that would be the advice you would give yourself.
Oh, yeah. If I had to relive this, it would have been after the first beating. I would have packed up the next day and gone. Until this marriage, what a narcissist and a gaslighter is. Yeah. My ex, not only after the first couple of months, I did not realize this because narcissists are very sneaky. Oh, so devious. They control everything in the background without it being visible, right? Now, I am no fool. Had it said to me before this marriage that I would have put up with even one slap from a man, my friends would have went, oh, no, she wouldn't. And I would have went, oh, yeah, right. I don't think so. Wow. Well, I had 13 years of hell. Did I leave him multiple times? Oh, yes, I did. But he would love bomb me, promise therapy, you name it. 4 times we did therapy.
4 times.
4 times with 4 different therapists. The first time we did it together. But because there was violence in it, they wanted, after the first session, they wanted to see us separately. In case I was afraid to say anything in front of him. Yeah. 2 months of that therapy. And the therapist told us, because They brought us together for the final session. And the therapist said, Kerry, you're not the problem.
Mhm.
He knows he is. This is what he knows he's got to do.
Mhm.
Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Now, that therapy happened before I left him the first time. Because the only way I would stay with him, I told him, he needed help
Yeah.
and anger management. Narcissistic side of him, that when I would call him out on something, find out something, or found out he lied about something, just menial day-to-day things, that's when it would eat at him for days. But he controlled the finances because he was earning more. He controlled everything in the background. Hence, I was trapped. He knew I couldn't afford to move out. After about 6 years, after one of the beatings, I phoned the police. And the police came and they arrested him. They asked me to come down to the station to make a statement. I did that. They could see the damage he'd done to me. And so they wanted me then to come in the next day for photographs of my injuries.
Yeah.
And see the police doctor. So I did that. And they had a ruler and literally measuring the bruises on me, my thigh. I was in my bra and pants because I was top to bottom bruising. They were writing it down. This is the police with the camera taking the photos and writing it all down. In the next room then, after that, I went to see the police doctor. She checked over me as well, and she says, oh, they've missed a few more. She got the ruler, measured and blah, and did her notes. The arresting officer came to me, and I then didn't want to press charges.
What made you change your mind?
Fear.
Okay.
I was afraid. Now, this is very common.
Yeah.
Very, very, very common.
What were you afraid of?
Everything. I was afraid of everything. I couldn't pinpoint. Because they make you live in fear.
You just became overwhelmed and everything was just coming up for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't press charges. But what the police did, and this is fair play to the police, they actually put him on license. They phoned me up and they said, we've put him on police license for 5 years. Which meant if he touched me or anyone again, he would be jailed.
Okay.
It's like a warning.
Yes.
By the police.
Yeah.
You do grievously bodily harm to anyone,
Yeah.
not just me.
Yeah.
Then you will be arrested, thrown in jail, and that's it.
Yeah.
Your chance is over. I wasn't married at this point.
Oh, right.
No. This was the year before I got married. I know. Oh, it gets better. It does. So we were split for 3 months. Thereabouts. But still in communication. Because he would message me every day. He would phone me. He's very possessive.
Yeah. So what was going through your mind at that point to say, I'm going to carry on with this conversation rather than, no, I'm sorry, there's a line being crossed here. I may not have pressed charges, but we're done to that. Because I know that's what you would do now.
Oh, yeah. And
But,
I have done.
Yeah,
I have
you
done.
know, so, but at that
I
point.
loved him.
Okay. All right.
I loved the person.
He was in between the other.
Yeah.
Okay. So you continued and you rekindled the relationship.
Yeah. And he'd always asked me to marry him from day one. And I always said, I'm never getting married again. It took me 13 years to get divorced from the first husband. I do not need a bit of paper.
Yeah.
You know, I will commit
Yeah.
for eternity, but I don't need marriage for that.
No.
The laws in the Isle of Man are different. And because I'm not Manx, because I wasn't living on the Isle of Man for 10 years, I could not get my own place.
So you got yourself settled in.
Yeah.
Then he asked you to marry him again.
Yeah.
And you did decide to do.
I decided to because I had to.
You felt you had to.
Yeah. I felt I had to for my own stability for a home.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Kind of.
There's a reason to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's a reason to it, which is the laws of. I wanted to fix him. Daughter further down the line actually said to me, she says, Mom, you're a fixer, but there's people that can't be fixed because they don't want to be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same in my business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't fix him.
No.
You know, 4 different therapists, you name it. Oh. And it got to the point with the final beating, I thought he's going to kill me. Because the beating before that, 2 weeks before that, he left me basically unconscious. I could feel him drag me by the arms across the bedroom floor. He lifted me up into bed and put the duvet cover over me. I was that terrified at that point because that was a vicious. Something in me said, Kerry, he's going to kill you one day. The whole night, I didn't move from that position because I thought if I open my eyes and he's still in that mood, he's going to start again. But what he did do was he came in periodically to check my pulse to make sure I was alive. Now that's scary. I was thinking, why are you not phoning an ambulance? If you think you're worried that you've killed me, why are you not phoning an ambulance? That's when I knew.
Yeah.
That was the penultimate.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks later, another beating. I phoned the police. Whilst I was trying to phone the police, he grabbed me, my phone, took my phone, so I couldn't phone the police because he was still out in license.
Right.
Or his license would have just ended maybe 6 months.
Had he not done any of this in between in that?
Oh yeah, he had.
He had. Okay.
So why didn't I phone the police?
Right. Okay.
Great question. But I wanted to fix him.
Yeah.
I eventually got away from him because he wasn't letting me go outside the door.
Yeah.
I eventually got away and ran out the door. I was in my bare feet, leggings and a vest top in January in the freezing cold. He locked the door after me so I couldn't get back in. I wasn't going back in anyway.
No.
I was going to my neighbour's across the way, across the car park, for her to phone the police. So the police came. They saw the destruction where he had thrown the food at me. Now, he tried to say I was the one, but as the police could see where I sit, all the food was behind me. and where he was holding on to the freezer, because he had me on the floor, pinned up against the kitchen door, was all full of the vegetables that was on our plate. Because he had me pinned and kicking me. He'd done a runner whilst waiting up. The police were literally 5 minutes. But he'd already got properly dressed and was gone. Because I saw him walk, so did my neighbour, when we were on the phone to the police. And because she kept me on the phone until the police van arrived.
Okay.
So making sure I was safe.
Yes.
The police were incredible throughout this whole process that I'm going to talk about now. The police and victim support were amazing. Absolutely amazing. Getting a bit emotional because they were so amazing.
Yeah. You're allowed to be.
The policeman that came was brilliant. Took me inside. I still had no phone because he took it with him. Went through what happened in the living room. We sat in the living room, me and the policeman went through what happened. I showed him the kitchen, where it started. It started because with the radio on, and there was a conversation on the radio, and I happened to comment on it at the dinner table. Now, I had only one bite of my roast dinner, okay? Because there it was visible on the plate when he started. And because I had the audacity to talk while we were eating dinner. So then I got dressed, went to the police station, made a statement. I could hear on the police radios they were looking for him because they couldn't find him. So I'd sent them to 2 places and they could not find him anywhere in the village. So the female officer I was given the statement to, she's anywhere else you could think of. There was, and I said it. And that's where they found him. And the arresting police officer arresting him said he was verbally and physically aggressive being arrested.
Right. Resisting arrest.
Yes, he was. He was also done for theft of my phone.
Right. Okay.
He was banged up. I went home. The police officer that came checked on me every single day. If it was not a phone call, he knocked on my door and came in to make sure. Now, this is even while he was in jail, right? Because he spent 3 weeks in jail.
Yeah.
They were so fantastic. And he actually did say to me, Kerry, I'd like you to come in and get photos of the bruising. He says, look, because we've got so much evidence, we don't need it. But I would like you to do that. And I explained that the last time that I did that, when I didn't press the charges, it was 2 male policemen with me standing in my underwear, measuring me and taking the photos. I says, I'm not going through that again. He was horrified.
Yeah, I'm horrified too when you told me the first time.
He was horrified that he says he couldn't believe it. And he's in the police force for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I said no. I says, I'm pressing charges, I'm going forthwith. I says, nothing is going to stop me this time.
Yeah.
I says, because he needs this done to him.
Yeah.
It was supposed to go, this was in the January, supposed to go to court in the March, but it was COVID time. And whilst we didn't have the lockdowns like the UK, Ireland, and the world had,
Yeah.
we were so lucky. We had the longest lockdown we had was at the very beginning, 3 months, already booked in court cases. So it was then put to May. That was the earliest date. He was out and living on bail and couldn't come near me or anywhere I was on the island. If he saw me out and he was in the same establishment, he would have to leave.
Right.
That was the conditions.
Yeah. And did he adhere to those?
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Did he break bail by contacting my friends to get to me, to reconcile with me? And did he phone me? Breaking bail? Yes, he did. Why didn't I phone the police and say he's broken bail? Because it would have done no difference. What's the point of him going to jail? He's already been in jail for this. He wasn't threatening me. He was love bombing me.
He was trying the same tactics again.
Yes. This time I was more wise.
Yeah.
And I was over it. Went to court in May. Victim support again and the police, amazing right throughout. For that period of time, they never once did not check up on me. Victim support on the phone. If I ever felt I had to go into them, they were there.
Yeah.
It was, you don't need to make an appointment. Come on, they were fantastic. The officer was fantastic, constantly checking in on me. Because our court is small, outside the courtrooms, there's only one public seating area, waiting area. So victim support has a room. I was allowed to sit in there with one of their colleagues, victim support. And it's charity, it's all charity. They don't get paid. Our court was meant to start at 10. So 10 o'clock came, weren't called in. 11 o'clock came, weren't called in. 12 o'clock came, weren't called in. Everyone's going, what's going on? Even the police, because the police officer who came to my aid and the arresting officer of the ex-husband, they were hanging around because they had to give evidence.
Yes.
As well. At 12:15, at the public prosecutor for the courts, I didn't have my own solicitor. He had his own. He was told he was told in the January when he was arrested, you're going to jail this time.
Yeah.
You are going to jail. Because he was out in license before for it.
Yeah.
Right? There was no ifs or buts.
Yeah.
Right?
Just for how long?
Yeah. That was the decide, because he pleaded guilty straight away when he was arrested. Because he knew he was bound to rights, you know. Yeah. And they said, you are going to jail. Just for how long? His solicitor spent those 2 hours and 15 minutes arguing with the judge and the prosecutor my 999 call, because he knew it was damning on his client.
Okay.
And there was 2 witnesses to that. A, it was recorded. B, my neighbour.
Yeah.
It came about that the judge was adjourning it until the 2 solicitors could decide, right? Because he had another court for the afternoon.
Yeah.
So the courtroom had to be free. At this point, when they came in, I was in tears.
They were trying to get that knocked out.
Yes. Trying to get my 999 call knocked out of evidence.
On what grounds?
I wasn't actually told on what. I was that, do you know what? When hanging around for that, I was terrified of having to stand on the stand
Yeah.
and having to relive just of that one incident,
Yes.
having to relive word for word on that stand in the court and being cross-examined by his solicitor. But I wasn't just reliving that final.
Yeah.
I was reliving 13 years of it.
Yeah.
In that, standing on that stand.
Yeah.
So I was really nervous. I was worried I'd slip up, I'd forget something, because I hadn't read my statement before going to court, because I didn't think I needed to, because I was going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
When they came out and told me, and I just broke down in tears at this point. I just broke down. And because I have my own company, my own business, I had a very, very busy, see this date in September. So went back, yes, that date was fine. And I said, this is no longer about me. Next time I come to court, it is no longer about me. It is about his future women. Because I already knew, whilst he was trying to get back with me and still was, and even after that, because he was still on bail, don't forget, he was getting together with someone else. So I said, it is no longer about me. It's about his future women. Because he just didn't do it with me. He did it with his first wife. And his mother told me that. So he was a serial wife beater. Yeah. Woman beater. Yeah. So I said, I'm doing this for all the other women that come after me.
Easier to do it for other people and do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thought of it hanging over my head for another almost 4 months was like a heavy weight.
Yeah.
September came. He actually told me he was going to lie in court, because he knew he was going to get banged up.
Okay.
So he was going to lie and make me out the liar. And I actually said to him, do whatever you want. I know I'm standing there telling the truth.
So he's trying to put the fear tactics into you.
Yes.
Manipulate you again.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And gaslight me.
Oh, yeah.
And which he gaslighted me our whole relationship. I mean, I never knew what a narcissist or a gaslighter was until I met my ex-husband. And years into the relationship, a friend of mine actually said, and she didn't know about the physical abuse. She just would hear the snide comments or the facial expression without words.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she would say, Kerry, he's a narcissist. And I said, what is a narcissist? I had no idea.
No.
Then I looked up narcissist. And then there's gaslighter. Oh, right underneath.
Yeah.
Well, he ticked every box there as well.
Yeah.
And I went, there's a name for someone like him outside of a wife beater.
Yeah.
I had more understanding.
Yeah.
September came, went to court, stood in the dock, 3.5 hours. I was cross-examined. It was repetitive though.
Yeah.
Because his solicitor was trying to catch me out.
Yeah.
Because my ex had said this and had said that. So his solicitor thought he could trip me up. But I was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't read my statement.
Yes.
Refreshed after what? January to September.
Yeah.
have you actually refreshed yourself on the statement you made? This is after the second time I missed out. I went, no, I haven't. So we were allowed a 5-minute recess so I could go over my statement again.
Yeah.
It was there again and fresh in my head.
Yeah.
I wasn't missing out.
Mm.
So the judge said when I came down from dock, we're going to do lunch now, but before we do, I would like the transcript of the 999 call, because let me go back to the court date in May. I had not left the court and the police officer drove me home. I had not left the court half an hour when the police officer phoned me to say that his solicitor was okay to let it go as evidence. So his solicitor was playing for time.
Right.
Because he knew the longer he was on bail,
Yeah.
the less jail time he would do.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So come September, he was on bail for nearly 10 months.
Mm.
I sat down after coming off the dock and the prosecutor started reading my 999 call. Well, after reliving everything for 3.5 hours, I was sitting there and I was in tears, listening to my 999 call.
Yeah.
So annoyed at myself because I thought I was not going to let him see me vulnerable. I was so angry at myself, but I was just sitting there and the tears were just running down. And I was going to stay to hear his evidence because I wanted to see where he was going to lie.
Yeah.
I went back to that emotion, that person.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm a different person now.
Yeah.
I went to victim support into their room. And we sat there to make sure he'd gone. Right? Because he was still out on bail.
Yeah.
He couldn't be in any vicinity with me.
Yes.
And I was sitting there and I broke down in there. I broke down. But it was relief.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Holding on to all that tension.
Yeah.
Letting it go.
It was more relief and just,
Yeah.
And so elated that I had the strength. And I didn't lose it like I wanted to lose it with his solicitor for the constant repeating of the same question, but put in a different way. Every so often, he would change questions and then go back to another question, but rephrase it. And so to try and catch me out, I could not go back in after lunch. The reason why? I'd done my bit. I didn't want to see his face again. Okay. I didn't want to hear his voice. I didn't want to hear his lies because it meant nothing to me.
So your bit had actually finished. All they wanted to get out of you was finished at that point.
Yeah.
Fair.
It was his turn in the afternoon.
Okay.
That's why I was
that
going
was the wise
back.
thing, I would have said. Yes, not putting yourself through that.
No. You know.
So what did the sentencing happen the same day?
No. What happened was he was found guilty. Because his statement differed from mine.
Okay.
That is why I had to stand in the dock.
Right. Okay.
Even though he had pleaded guilty, the judge had to decide his guilt. Yeah. Because I'd never been in a courtroom before.
Yes.
They got an appointment with the courts and victim support did all this. Yeah. And I met them at their office. Yes. Came with me and walked me through.
Right. So you were able to be familiar with the setting.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But because I didn't have a solicitor, I wasn't prepped. The prosecuting solicitor didn't even make contact with me throughout the whole time.
Right.
A massive failure for the courts.
Mm.
She should have at least met with me twice.
Yeah.
Without victim support and the police, I would have had no one. Not one being. Because I still hadn't told that many people that I was a domestic abuse survivor.
Mm.
I was a victim.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now a survivor.
You are. You are, girl.
And whilst it has taken 2.5, 3 years, I don't think we ever heal 100% from what we have gone through as abused. It doesn't matter if it's physical abuse, mental, emotional, financial, it's all the same. It's soul and life destroying. Just because it's physical doesn't make it a greater abuse than any of the others.
Mental abuse is very hard.
It's worse because you can't see the scars from mental and emotional or financial. You can't see the scars.
No.
Every aspect of the list of abuse, all within one man. Get where I am today. It was a long, hard journey. It was not easy. Once he was sentenced, because he had to go for a psychiatric evaluation. Yeah. So it was 2 months. It was the end of November when he had to go back to court. They were found guilty.
Yeah. So did he go to prison then?
No, because he had already done 11 months basically on bail.
Right.
So he'd done his time.
Okay.
But that victim support were very unhappy with that. Me, I was just happy with the guilty.
So what about you going forward then?
Well,
obviously, it's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years. I had
You're
to
in a different place, but what did you do to help yourself get in that place?
What I had to do, because the very day he got out of court, he brought his girlfriend down to my pub because it was my bar. And I got a job offer for media, because every time I saw him, it was like
getting triggered.
I was getting triggered.
Yeah.
So I took the job just to get away from him.
Yeah.
And to get space.
Yeah.
To start the
building your life again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of my journey, because I could breathe freely.
Yeah.
Without my stomach going in a knot every time I turned a corner.
Yeah.
In case he was going to be, I would see him there, or he would be there. But the freedom of not having that knot in my stomach, you don't realize how much. Don't breathe.
Yeah, you hold that stress and tension in your body.
Yeah,
because it's all unresolved.
Yeah. Until you're in an environment where you know you are not going to bump into that trigger.
Yeah.
That mental freedom was a godsend.
Yeah.
I'm getting Kerry back.
Yeah.
And I did sort of have counselling along the way.
Good.
But it wasn't really, they weren't getting to what should have been, what the route. It was like, I can't explain it, but I was walking away going, well, that was a waste. I'll do it. I'm doing okay. I'll be able to do it myself. I'm very honest with myself.
Yeah.
I don't fool myself. And I talk to myself in there.
Oh, I do it out loud sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I argue with myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, Kerry, you could have done that.
Ah, the saboteurs were all kicking in, were
The
they?
saboteurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I never knew what a saboteur was.
We're talking about self-sabotage here.
Self-sabotage.
Mm.
Never knew what it was until this lady here. This lady here. And I can honestly say, I could not have shut the door firmly on that era of my life had it not been for this lady here.
Oh,
I couldn't have done it.
glad to have helped.
Now I'm going to cry. You do not realize your tactics were so gentle. So, oh my God, sneaky
Sneaky, me?
in not even in getting to the actual nitty-gritty and talking me through, and you let me talk. I owe you so much.
Oh, okay. You're going to make me start in a minute.
You do.
Yeah.
You have done so much. Healed.
Yeah.
But I wasn't until I came to you, met you, as in talking to you.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
So when we were talking about the healed part, we're also talking about grieving the losses, grieving our hopes, dreams, and expectations of what we think a relationship is going to be.
Oh God, did I not?
That turns out to be completely different.
Yeah.
And understanding that we are also able to, under that ethos of grief and understanding what that is as an emotion, know that something could be triggered further on down the line.
I know.
To be then, but it's how we then react to that.
I am fully expecting, right, that I am going to be triggered, because it's only now am I ready for a proper relationship.
Yeah. So,
but I know I'm going to be looking.
I don't want you to focus on being triggered.
I know.
Because law of attraction, universal,
Yeah.
we do not want them to, oh right, she needs that to be triggered. What I'm saying is, if somebody starts to come into your life that might be really, really sweet, you could be triggered by, are you love bombing me?
Yeah.
That, but you can catch that, because that's a saboteur.
Saboteur.
That's your judge, your saboteur, and I'll explain about them in a minute.
Saboteurs
plus the fact you've got a lot of mates around you.
I do.
That will have them interrogated.
Do you know what?
But
I have.
It's understanding
Amazing
that
friends.
those little things like that you still have the power over them, because you can notice that they will be a trigger, and then you can take other action off it.
I also have a trigger, because it happened, because I have dated and been in sort of relationships where they don't live on island, because it suited me.
Yeah.
But I got a trigger when guy I was seeing, just when he was kissing me, he put his hand on my like that, but as a caress, I suppose you would call it. But it triggered me. I panicked. I kept it calm, but I pulled back and I went, right, sorry, I've got to go. I mean, my ex would kiss me but rip my lip,
right,
because he would be pretending to kiss me, but that was him going into one.
Yeah.
And that was the start of. So it's going to be things like that. I understand.
Yeah.
That I am. But when I pulled back, I knew, I understood why I did it.
Yes. Yeah.
So I could address that.
Yeah.
like you say, the saboteur,
Yeah.
the self-sabotage.
And things we do become ingrained in us, our muscle memory. So what I sometimes tell clients, like I've been through something like yourself, is your skin's replaced every 2 years. Your liver every 7, your bones every 10. So
Even at our age.
even at our age. So you know that what was once touched by somebody on your skin or abused anywhere else in that time frame, it's not the same piece of skin.
That makes sense.
So you can bring it back down to, I'm holding this on as a
Yeah.
thought.
I'm fresh again. Every
Yeah.
part of me is fresh. It's new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never thought of it that way.
With the wisdom.
You see, girls? And boys, because there's men here.
Men.
There's men as well.
Abused as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
And there's
Finding
more
jobs,
men.
isn't it?
Yeah, there's more men than is recognized.
Yes.
So, guys, now you know why she's good. that skin thing and that, yeah, and the liver. There you go.
Yeah. So there is a quiz anybody can do on positive intelligence on finding out what your saboteurs are. So just look at the top 3 of the quiz, and those are the ones that you can work on, and identifying them helps you look at things in a different way as well. I've been through it myself, and a difficult situation I've been dealing with a family member, and it helped me stop doing what I was doing and look at it in a completely different way. So if anybody wants any help with that, then just get in touch.
And it helped me.
Yeah.
Because I was my own worst enemy with the saboteurs. I was my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And now
you catch them.
Thanks to Di. Because I never knew what they were before.
You catch them. Yeah.
Oh, hey, they barely even try and sneak in anymore because I can hear them coming now. Yeah. They don't have to speak. Yeah. I can hear them coming.
Or you can find yourself sometimes having a chat with the whole lot, and then the way the coach, because I get coaching as well, the way my coach said, he sees them as a boardroom of directors of your company. So the way I do it now is they're in that boardroom, and sometimes we go in because you'll have something that perhaps you need a boost for. So you might touch into the restless saboteur to get yourself going again. So it's good to go in sometimes and when you're stuck in life, but understanding that is a boardroom of programming that you've had and the upbringing you've had and things that have those saboteurs have come from what you've had in life. It's not a case of they've just arrived. So if you understand that, then you can realize and shut the door on them, especially if you're trying to evolve into a different place in your life, like Kerry is.
And I could not have got to this. I'm in such an amazing place right now. You know, mentally, emotionally, every which way, my day-to-day life. I'm walking around in my home or down the street smiling to myself because I'm just I've got such inner happiness and peace now. I never had that before.
Yeah.
And I feel on air.
Yeah.
It's like the whole weight of the grief, like you said, you know, the loss, the saboteurs, they are sneaky, devious devils.
Yes.
And they take up free rent space and food in our head. And I did not realize how much of a weight of them I was carrying throughout the years of my life, not just with this one marriage, but from childhood.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I had an amazing childhood, but no life is perfect.
No.
There was still stuff
Yeah.
You know, and I've carried that all my life
So that's
until you.
Yeah.
And I feel no longer 5'2". I feel 6 foot. I feel 6
Yeah,
foot
yeah.
because that weight is not
You're holding you down.
holding me
anymore.
down,
Yeah.
and I'm walking on air.
There is nothing worse than us having unresolved grief
Yeah,
that we keep
bottled up.
swallowing, pushing down, sticking in that box,
Yeah.
trying to put our foot back on the lid.
It's like a bottle of fizz,
That
right?
at one point will just pop if we're not careful.
Yeah.
And you just chose to let the lid off instead of waiting for it to fly off.
And do you know what? The only way I can explain every one of us carrying around that is that horrible, stinging, deep heartburn. You know when you get heartburn?
Yeah.
Gastric,
Yeah.
you know, and it's really there and it is on fire. And every time you swallow, it erupts like a volcano up to here, the burning. That's how
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when people swallow their emotions down.
Yeah, that's the only way I can explain it.
There's either you get jaw issues, or because you're like
Yeah.
all that anger in, and then you're swallowing it down, so you get throat issues. Then it's going down to your heart, and then it can be stomach issues.
Mine's bowels.
Well, it's even gone further than that.
It's
But
IBS.
one thing is, things can be changed around, and those things can be addressed.
Well, mine is my bowels. Sorry, too much information. But I used to have medication.
Yeah.
Now I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe not every day like before. Maybe once, if not once a week, once every 10 days.
Yeah.
Because my
just
whole
holding everything up.
system,
Yeah.
my whole system is revived.
Yes. Yeah. So, what advice would you pass on to anybody listening to this podcast now?
I know it's scary. Firstly, don't keep it a secret from friends or family. I did for years and years and years.
Well, I've known you since 2017,
And you
I didn't know. You didn't tell. You didn't know.
I didn't tell.
It was
So
a shock. Yeah.
everyone is different. And your situations could be different or similar to mine.
Yeah. Well, they can relate to yours for sure. Yeah.
I so hope this is why I'm doing this. I want to put it out there as you're not alone. You are not going through what you're going through alone. You're not the only one going through it. If I had any advice I've been through, do not keep it a secret. Do not be ashamed. It's not your fault. It is not you. It's them. They are the one that is doing this to us. They should be ashamed. Yet we are made ashamed that we're with a family member or a partner or a friend, who we keep in our lives that is abusing us. We're ashamed because
you've been taught to do it. You're programmed to do it.
We're programmed to do it.
Yeah.
And don't do it. Yeah. Shout from the rooftops, shame them. Do not feel that inner shame, because it's not your shame to carry, it's theirs. Number 2, if you're in a relationship, or even if you're flat sharing with a friend or a flatmate, leave. Do not stay like I did. Leave. Sofa surf if you have to until you find somewhere. At least you feel safe and you've got peace of mind, instead of walking on eggshells every minute of the day. There is help out there. wherever you are in the world, there is help out there. Put it on a Facebook page, anonymous, asking for victim support, even if you're in the Isle of Man. They are incredible. Amazing. The police are now trained. You can phone them and they will advise you and support you now. You will find the help. Just even anonymously put it on Facebook, social media, asking for help to find shelters, support groups, because they will be able to advise you when you explain your situation. They will have a list of male shelters or support groups. So if you're a male and you don't, even if you don't drink, phone up AA, phone up Gambling Anonymous, even if you don't do gambling, they will guide you to who to go to for support and help.
So just to address the fear, because I think it's fear that keeps a lot of people.
It kept me
in these situations. Okay. So a thought that we have and we hold for 17 seconds can attach to another, to another, to another, good or bad. This is how it works within us. And if we keep thinking a thought over and over again, it becomes a belief.
Yeah.
So if you start to have a thought, you're not good enough, this person's not been telling you good enough, the evidence has been shown to you that you're not good enough, and therefore you now fear life without this person because that's where they've got you. Remember this, and you can stop those. It's just a thought that you've turned into a belief that actually you can now reverse, and it can have a release on the hold that it's had over you. But I'm sure if you go and get yourself some support, they will talk to you about all of that, along with what Kerry has shared with us today. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for opening up like this today.
Thank you, Di. And guys,
sharing it.
Guys, reach out to this lady. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. She's online.
Yeah.
This lady she's been my lifesaver, and I've had other therapists.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Until
you.
next week.
Good
Bye
luck.
now.
Sending love.